Hello and welcome tonight. Residents of Dikwa and Mate in Borno State flee their homes following attacks by suspected insurgents. Chief of Army Staff applauds soldiers for repelling invasion as he visits theatre command. Southwest governors say they are in charge of the forest in their region, insist their position is in line with that of the National Economic Council on Forest Ownership and Management. Renowned cleric John Cardinal Onaikan takes a swipe at the practice of ransom payment to bandits and condemns inability of government to stem the tide of insecurity across the country. And at least 2 people killed as Myanmar police scale up action against anti-coup protesters in worst violence since start of demonstrations. Plus sports and business news.
On business news tonight, National Agricultural Lands Development Authority announces farming initiative to boost food security and job creation in the country.
Civilians dislodged from Dikwa local government area of Borno State are said to be currently taking refuge in bushes following an attack by insurgents yesterday. Military sources say a combined efforts of the air component and ground forces of Operation Lafia Dole repelled the attack after hours of battle. It was gathered that the insurgents had repeatedly attacked neighboring Mate local government within the week, hoisting their flags in parts of it. They were also said to have laid ambush for the reinforcements deployed from the headquarters of the theatre command in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. The military later evacuated civilians from Mate to Dikwa, which also came under attack on Friday. The attack came barely 2 months after the Borno state government resettled the 100 households in New Mate. The casualty figure from the attack is still unknown, but some soldiers injured from Mate have been evacuated to Maiduguri, where they are currently being treated. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff is commending the troops of the Nigerian Army who repelled the attack on Dikwa, saying that the soldiers gave a good account of themselves. Major General Ibrahim Atahiru gave the assurance that more combat equipment will be moved to the theatre in Borno State and others in various parts of the country. The Army Chief, who is visiting the theatre for the 3rd time since his appointment, said there was a need to encourage and ensure the fighting troops are motivated. He also assured that the Nigerian Army under his watch is working hard to surmount the twin problems of banditry and insurgency in the country.
Christians have observed from...
There is the need for us to come here and make appraisals. The need to also encourage troops, rev up their morale for subsequent successes that we expect. Like you know, areas around Jimia, Sabil Huda, and the entire general area of where Boko Haram had deployed before now has been cleared. So we can rightly say we can get into the second phase of the operation, which will start soon. In the theater, when other areas were making major successes, the adversary will want to distract you. And that is an example of what you had in New Marte and Dikwa. And good enough, our troops gave a good account of themselves and took on the terrorists decisively. So that is that aspect. We'll also encourage them and bring in more combat multipliers so that is exactly what you continue to have all through the theater. At that juncture, let me also assure Nigerians that what we are doing in this theater will be replicated across all the other theaters around Nigeria, so that we'll give a final knock to Boko Haram and indeed bandits and other who perpetrate acts of criminality within the country.
Meanwhile, the governors of Oyo, Ogun, Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti states have unanimously adopted the decision by the National Economic Council on Forest Ownership and Management across the country. Rising from a security meeting in the Oyo State Government House in Ibadan, the chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, told journalists that in line with the NEC position, all the states should be in charge of their forests. They also agreed that stronger measures must be taken to tighten security around border areas to stop the incursion of foreign herdsmen. The meeting also deliberated on the need for government to support cattle breeding and other agricultural production, and resolved that government must help with enablers to discourage open grazing across the country.
We have met and discussed, and I can assure you that the discussion we had with our Obas here, our security chiefs are here, and the most productive. A lot many things we never thought of came up, and we had from our KBC's more matured approach to challenges we are facing in the Southwest and in the country at large. And following our discussion, we all agreed that the time is now that we support the decision of NEC, that is the National Economic Council. Most of you have heard about their decision, but all of us here support that decision about forest management. And that we believe that all the states should be in position to manage their forests. And that will give enough room for you to determine who and who are there, what purpose are they serving, and where you have people who are there illegally, the state should be able to take some steps so that you can preserve our forests.
Meanwhile, the Ebonyi state government has kicked against the engagement of underage boys as herdsmen in the state. It stated this at the joint security meeting to address the continued face-off between some herdsmen and farming communities in Ebonyi. Amongst those at the gathering to find a lasting solution to the problem were traditional rulers, representatives of the army, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, as well as the police.
This is yet another meeting called by the Ebonyi state government in partnership with the Nigeria Police Force in the state to find a solution to the lingering crisis between farmers and herders. Present are representatives of the Mietiala Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, Ebonyi State chapter, and some traditional rulers who have come together to help chart a new way forward.
If there is anything contrary to what the local government chairman have just said.
After the deliberations, the Commissioner of Police, Ebonyi State Command, Garba Aliyu, lists the resolutions.
One of those things is adherence strictly to the laws of the state on farmers, herders relationship. 2, Executive Council of Mietiala to monitor, supervise their subject on strict adherence of the laws of Ebonyi State.
The Ebonyi State government appeals to both groups to work in harmony.
This can only be handled by them. They know their language. If their chiefs can talk to them, now the state government says the underage should not rear the cows. And then profile. Let's know the number you are. Let's know where you reside, so that we can be putting eye on the area you are staying. It's a simple thing.
As all sides come together to find an enduring solution to the crisis, residents look forward to the positive impact of this meeting on the relationship between farmers and herders in Ebonyi State.
Now it's 4 days since bandits stormed Government Science Secondary School, Kagara, in Niger State and abducted 41 people after killing one. And as Nigerians await their release, the debate on how to rescue the victims has been divided between operations by security operatives, and payment of ransom. Eminent cleric John Cardinal Naikon is condemning dialogue with the bandits, demanding that those in government leave the stage if they can no longer secure the lives of citizens, as non-state actors appear to be taking over the country. Archbishop Naikon stated this in Minna, the Niger State capital, on the sidelines of the ordination of the auxiliary bishop of Minna Diocese.
We should not be living in a country where you are always with your heart in your mouth when you are moving from one place to the other. We should not be living in a country where children cannot study in peace in their schools, and where bandits, whatever you call them, from nowhere comes and cuts away 20, 30 children and their teachers into the bush, and then sit there somewhere and are boasting, calling for dialogue. And even government agencies talking about reaching out to them. That's not the right, it's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do. It is about time that we have a government which takes care of the people. This is nothing political. It's nothing to do with PDP, APC. And we have now seen it has nothing to do with Islam or Christianity. Not even with our tribal differences. Well, we have a large gang of criminals that are almost taking over our country. The government should either do it or allow others to do it. Who else do we blame? Are we going to blame my grandmother in the village? Aren't there people who claim that they are our rulers? Who actually, during the elections, force us, beg us, cajole us, bribe us to put them in power. Now, you are in power. Do the work, for goodness sake.
Meanwhile, the federal government is also ruling out the option of ransom payments to kidnappers. According to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, the government is exploring both military and non-military options, but insists that ransom is not part of them. He was speaking on our flagship program, Sunrise.
The strategy government is employing is not the subject matter of a television discussion, but we're employing all means.
Does this means include ransom paying?
You see, like I said, you employ kinetic and non-kinetic. You don't throw away invitation to treat or to engage. For your overall strategy, you keep to your chest.
No. Because, sorry, Alero. The question then, because there are rumors out there, I'm sure you are always taking those on, that government paid ransom for the Kankara boys and is contemplating paying ransom for the Kagara.
I can say categorically that no penny was paid for the Kankara boys, none was paid for the Dapchi girls. You see, all these conspiracy theories about ransom is nothing but conspiracy theory.
In part two, after the break, Niger State Governor deplores state of Kagara College, blames past administrations in the state for neglect of the school. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Residents of Dikwa and Mate in Borno State flee their homes following attack by suspected insurgents. Chief of Army Staff applauds soldiers for repelling invasion as he visits Theatre Command. Southwest governors say they are in charge of forests in the region, insist their position is in line with that of the National Economic Council on Forest Ownership and Management. Renowned cleric John Cardinal Naikon takes a swipe at the practice of ransom payment to bandits and condemns inability of government to stem the tide of insecurity across the country. And at least 2 people killed as Myanmar police scale up action against anti-coup protesters in worst violence since start of demonstrations. Prior to the abduction of 41 persons from Government Science Secondary School, Kagara, Niger State, not much was known about that school outside the state. But the condition of the college is now a subject of discussion following the invasion by the bandits. The school, which is currently in a dilapidated condition, has no perimeter fence, a condition which some say left the school vulnerable. Meanwhile, Governor Abubakar Bello is blaming the situation of neglect on past governments in the state, saying that his administration has made efforts to revamp schools in the state and that there was a plan to renovate that particular school in Kagara before Wednesday's incident. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
Government Science Secondary School Kagara is surrounded by hills and trees without a fence, making it susceptible to easy entry by outsiders. The students' hostel is also in a shambles, looking like a war-torn area. Building with falling ceilings and broken windows and doors. Armed men took advantage of the lack of security in the school and stormed the staff quarters and hostels, where they abducted at least 41 persons. Addressing journalists at the government house in Mina, Governor Abubakar Bello says his administration inherited the decay and is trying hard to fix it before the attack.
When we came in 2015, we started the whole school approach. Basically, what we did was started rebuilding the schools. And each school cost close to about 350 million or more to do. They were so bad that they didn't have toilets, no fence, no roof. They had blown off roofs, staffs living in very bad conditions. So we decided, instead of doing temporary measures, we should rebuild those schools.
The governor also explains how many schools in the state were long abandoned by past administrations.
I know we politicians, we like to cut the tape. But if we don't maintain what previous administrations have done, because we want to do a new one and cut tapes, we'll find ourselves in a very difficult situation. And that is what is happening. These schools you see have been built 30, 40 years ago. Some of them have not seen paint in 40 years. No paint, no fence. Yes, then 40 years ago there was a bit of peace. We do not have the security challenges we have now, so it was okay then. But now, our schools must be fenced.
The state government has ordered the shutdown of all boarding schools in 4 local government areas, namely Shiroro, Munya, Rafi, and Mariga, where bandits constantly attack. With many schools in Niger State still suffering from infrastructural decay and lack of security, there are fears that even those outside the 4 local government areas may not be safe from possible attacks. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Staying with security, former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki is calling for national collaboration and unity to tackle insecurity in the country. Dr. Saraki says the current security challenge must not be politicized and should not be affiliated to any party. He stated this in Mina after leading members of the People's Democratic Party Reconciliation Committee to commiserate with Governor Abubakar Bello over the abduction of the 41 people from the Government Science Secondary School, Kagara, and 21 passengers abducted from a government-owned bus.
In line of the recent unfortunate incidents happened in Niger State, it was only proper that we come here and commiserate with our brother, our friend, the governor of the state, and the good people of Niger State on the unfortunate incident that happened in the Rafi local government, and to giving our support and our prayers that those who have been kidnapped will be released soon, and those that might have lost their lives, the Almighty and General Fidaus. Despite our primary objective here as a political party, as we said, that without a safe and secured country, there can't be any politics. So that must override whatever our primary mission is. So here is just to show solidarity, show our own compassion and condolences for what happened, and continue to wish him the very best so that very soon those who have been kidnapped will gain freedom.
To our COVID-19 update, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the 2021 Coronavirus Disease Health Protection Guidelines on January the 21st this year. That document made it a punishable offense for anyone not to comply with the COVID-19 safety protocols. Apart from making physical distancing and the use of face masks in public mandatory, the document also compels the Nigeria Police and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps to enforce the protocol. Our next report takes a look at the level of compliance with these protocols in some of the states in the northern part of Nigeria.
At the weekly briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on Monday, the Minister of Health warned against complacency as the country witnessed some decline in infection rates. Even at that, records with the Health Ministry shows that 520 new cases and 5 fatalities were recorded between Sunday, February the 14th and Monday, February the 15th, when the task force briefed the nation.
Decline in other countries that you see today are not necessarily attributable to vaccines, but still to better compliance with public health measures. Under no condition must we let down our guard as we continue to implement our 4-pronged strategy of infection mitigation with strict implementation.
President Buhari signed the 2021 Coronavirus Disease Health Protection Regulations on January 21st this year. The document intends to make enforcement of the non-pharmaceutical measures more stringent, with the aim of reducing the rate of infections. Even though the security agencies are compelled to enforce the regulations, the level of compliance in most states in the north is very low. From Kogi State in the north central to Zamfara in the northwest, most residents do not comply with the safety protocols in public places. In Kaduna, Taraba and Zamfara states, the level of adherence to COVID-19 safety protocols is relatively high in schools and offices, but it is a far cry in the streets and marketplaces.
Every teacher that is coming in, whether teacher or student, must be checked with the infrared thermometer, must put on his face mask.
Health officials in some of the states say the government must match words with action and scale up enforcement.
So in as long as there is one state that is not doing the right thing, that will affect the generality of the response. So to me, the federal government should actually declare an emergency, a public health response emergency, which they did, but it should be in practice. You can see what is happening in other countries, even to the extent of deploying military to make sure that there is adequate response.
Part 5 of the 2021 Coronavirus Disease Health Protection Regulations puts enforcement squarely on the police force, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, as well as the Immigration Service. The total number of cases in Nigeria, as at last Sunday ago, stands 146,928 and 1,761 fatalities. These are real statistics that shows that the country is not out of the woods yet.
To other stories, 5 suspected victims of a human trafficking gang have been intercepted by officers of the Nigeria Immigration Service Zone A, Lagos. The victims, who range between the ages of 17 and 21, were intercepted with their alleged traffickers on Owode Road on their way to Ghana through the Seme border. While handing over the victims to officials of NAPTIP in Ikeja, Lagos, the Assistant Controller General in charge of the zone, Doris Brimer, says the service will not relent in checkmating human trafficking across the Western Zone.
They were intercepted along Owode Road on their way to Ghana through Seme border. We have been able to discover that all of them reside in Federal Capital Abuja, FCT. They come from FCT. 3 of them are indigene of Kaduna State, 1 from Plateau State, 1 from Ebonyi State, and the trafficker himself is from Anambra State. They were promised work while living Abuja, that they were coming to do waitresses and waiters' job in Lagos. But on getting to Lagos, they were further told that they will have to continue to Ghana, and that's where the jobs are waiting for them.
The French government and the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, have agreed to intensify collaborations to curtail the menace of drug trafficking and abuse. The agreement was reached during a courtesy visit on the chairman of the NDLEA, retired Brigadier General Buba Marwa, by the French ambassador to Nigeria. The collaboration will entail language training, provisions of logistics, equipment, and intelligence in the fight against illicit drug abuse and trafficking.
Our immense thanks for all the previous assistance and support that we have enjoyed, both in technical services and in training. Even now, we're enjoying the French language teaching. The offer of collaboration is very well received by us. The drug issues is global, and unless there is this type of unity or purpose, we can never get there. And as Your Excellency may have noticed, in the last 4 weeks or so, we've been able to move quite dramatically by changing some strategies and doing a few things. And I want to give the assurance that we will even do more in the weeks and months ahead.
Let's bring you up to speed with the Lagos State Judicial Panel sitting on restitution for victims of SARS and other related matters today. Listed 12 matters for hearing. It did not, however, go on in most of the cases, owing largely to the absence of petitioners in some cases and counsel in other petitions. One interesting petition which came up before the panel was that involving the family of late Lucky Olise against the Federal Anti-Robbery Squad. Parties agreed that the chairperson of the panel, Justice Doris Okobi, ought to recuse herself from hearing that petition because she was the same judge who heard the petition at the Lagos High Court before it was brought to the panel seeking an enforcement of her judgment. Justice Okobi agreed and held that the panel will deliberate and make an in-house arrangement for another member of the panel to preside on the proceedings at the next adjourned date of 13th of March. The only petitioner whose encounter with the police was heard was Mr. Tosin Odebode, a businessman who narrated how in December 2007 he was assaulted and his jaw broken by the police.
On the 12th day, December 2007, at the close of business, I closed from work. I'm getting back home with my friend. On getting to the road opposite Ikeja local government, my friend told me that he wanted to buy a recharge card and some other things at the shop nearby. So I have to park for him. And he left. Suddenly, a vehicle filled with police officers double-crossed me where I parked. All of them pointing gun at me for no reason. They came down from the vehicle. When they searched my car, they did not see anything incriminating. They found money in my car. 1,850,000 naira. They didn't even allow me to talk. They were saying, they were calling me different kind of unprintable names. Where do I get this kind of money? You are a thief. 419. Armed robber. I was trying to explain to them that I own business ventures outfit. I'm a businessman. In fact, I'm an international businessman. That this money is from my business. They couldn't listen to me. There are about 6 or 7 of them. So one of them just hit me with the gun, the bottom of the gun. It broke my head, broke my jaws. At that
From there, Nigeria has an abundance of tourist sites with stunning natural beauty. These sites are scattered in different parts of the country, including the Federal Capital Territory. The nation's capital hosts beautiful sceneries that have become tourist sites, such as the Zuma Rock, the Millennium Tower, and several hills surrounding the city. However, one site is fast becoming a major attraction for fun seekers and tourists. It's the Mpape Crush Rock, as captured in this report.
Mpape, a shanty community in the Federal Capital Territory, is a 10-minute drive from the Abuja city center. The slum has survived several demolition attempts by successive governments, with a series of court cases between the FCT administration and residents over resettlement issues. Despite its proximity to the city, Mpape lacks infrastructural development except for its growing human population and a corresponding rise in the number of shanties. Amidst all this is this beautiful scene, the Mpape Crushed Rocks. It's fast gaining prominence as fun seekers throng the place at every given opportunity. The site is a crushed rock, which is an abandoned granite quarry occupying about 131,000 square meters of massive, highly fractured, igneous rock with a very deep lake formed in the middle. It also serves as a sports center for the residents.
I really want the government to do more about this place. Let them make it an adventure ground, a place where you come and have fun, not just to snap picture and go away.
The place is very, very groovy, like very, very fun to be.
We found some local divers and young men who are into business here and help care for the site. They speak to us about the expectations of this new tourist attraction.
My job here is to scare the place and dive in case person falling, but we are not praying. But that's my job here. And I did not get paid. I just really doing it here. We are our friends and the people are coming.
Nigeria's tourism landscape is extremely rich and beautiful to attract tourists from across the world. The climate, vegetation, quality airspace, beautiful scenery, the rock, as well as waterfalls, captivating beaches, historical relics, rich cultural diversity, friendly people and wildlife are Nigeria's tourism assets. Ordinarily, this should make Nigeria a leading tourism paradise in Africa, but unfortunately, the reverse is the case because of lack of investment.
What the government is supposed to do is that if they cannot even do themselves directly, then they should get the private sector involved in it. Get some people who are ready to invest. And then provision of facilities even around the site that will beautify the area.
2014 statistics from the World Trade Organization shows that tourism and hospitality is one of Africa's greatest assets, with market worth of $50 billion. But it's also the most underinvested asset, with about $203 billion of untapped potential. Perhaps the right investments can drive the growth of the sector in Nigeria.
From tourism development to developing the Niger Delta, the NDDC is promising to support educational institutions in the region in the area of infrastructure provision in its next budget cycle. The Commission's interim administrator, Effiong Akwa, stated this when a delegation from the University of Port Harcourt paid him a courtesy visit. Earlier, the team visited the sites of 2 abandoned projects in Akwa Ibom State, where contractors were promised payment to return to site.
This is what the 175-room University of Uyo permanent site hostel now looks like. A project the Niger Delta Development Commission began constructing some years back. Its uncompleted state is what draws the NDDC team here as weeds take over portions of the building.
Working with the state director, we should be able to give whatever, because this is an essential project. That is true. And yes. we want it done. Yes, we are coming with payment insurance or whatever, advance payment or guarantee. You make sure that all those things are ready. You come along with them.
Away from the abandoned hostel to the regional specialist hospital at Ngpat Enin local government area, where the story is not different, as the structure that would have housed a 3-in-1 complex comprising orthopedic, cardiovascular, as well as children and maternity sections is uncompleted. On a closer look, the land around the complex is now a cassava farm, a cause for concern for the agency.
Entity is to look back.
From the field to the agency's headquarters, where a delegation from the University of Port Harcourt is visiting. The acting vice-chancellor of the university, Professor Stephen Okodudu, appeals to the NDDC to build another student hostel that will take pressure off the existing infrastructure.
We're also making a request that you kindly assist us with another hostel project. Right now, this current hostel is being shared by both male and female. And so if we get that opportunity of another hostel project, I think it will go a long way to cementing what is a natural relationship that we should have with the Niger Delta Commission.
For the agency, this can only be accommodated in its 2022 budget.
You need to write to us that you need a second hostel so that we can present your request to the National Assembly, to the Budget Committee of the National Assembly for appropriate budgetary provisions against subsequent years' budget, which will be 2022 budget.
The Niger Delta Development Commission says it's set to deliver the dividends of democracy to the region.
From all indications, normalcy appears to have returned to Olu local government area of Imo State after days of joint military operations in the area following illegal camps allegedly built by members of the Eastern Security Network of IPOB. However, the President General of the Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Group, Ohaneze Ndigbo, Professor George Obiozo, who paid a visit to the area today, sued for peace and called on the people of Olu to support the government against any group trying to cause disunity. As the drum beats of the 2023 general elections seem to begin to sound, some youth have begun rallying support for the governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yahaya Bello. They have therefore launched a youth support group under the aegis of Bello Ambassadors Network aimed at helping the governor in his next political quest. Governor Bello was represented at the event in Abuja by his deputy, Edward Onoja, who says he's optimistic of Governor Bello's victory in the 2023 presidential election.
As the race for the 2023 presidency picks up gradually, interested political actors have begun to gather support. One of them is the governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello. Youths from across the country have come together to launch a support group known as Bello Ambassadors Network, BAN.
I have an immediate agenda, not just at hitting our 5 million membership target by December 2021, but also at reaching out to every Nigerian through door-to-door awareness and sensitization for the 2023 year.
The Chief of Staff to the Governor reels out some of his achievements.
His Excellency, who is the youngest governor in Nigeria, has successfully built a cabinet of young Nigerians, irrespective of tribe, gender, and religion, and his feats in security, youth and women empowerment, agriculture, education, and healthcare infrastructure deserves national recognition.
Governor Yahaya Bello is represented by the Deputy Governor, Edward Onoja.
In Kogi today, the things that didn't exist for 28 years, for whatever reason, is existing. An example is a chapel in Government House. It was never there. His Excellency Alhaji Yahaya Adoza Bello is a Muslim, but he gave the Christian community a sense of belonging. He sends me to tell you that ensure you go and be a member of the APC, because the battle begins from the party. Once you can get yourselves into the party, once the time comes, the party wants to win. And winning, it shall be for the All Progressive Congress.
Next up is the unveiling of the official emblem.
To the good of the Nigerian nation and the future of our country.
With about 2 years before the 2023 presidential election, Governor Yahaya Bello, the youngest governor in the country, is seeking to leverage on the youth population.
Thank you very much.
And now for business news, here's Teniola Shobowale.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. The Executive Secretary of the National Agricultural Lands Development Authority, Mr. Paul Ikone, has announced plans to launch the Grow Your Farm project to boost food security and job creation. Speaking shortly after a visit of the Governor of Borno State, he explains that the project targets the cultivation of food by households as part of measures to attain self-sufficiency in food production.
I did inform the governor our Grow Your Food program, which will encourage every household to start growing their food within their environment. Using their flower pot, instead of flower pot now, it will be called vegetable pot to grow their food. NADA is going to encourage that. We'll be distributing bags and soil and seeds for them to do that, so that every household will use every available space to grow what they eat. Remember what the president said, that we must produce what we eat. That has been the watchword of NADA. Again, we had the discussion between NADA and the Borno State government on our fish farming program, which we are engaging 2,040 farmers. Borno State has submitted their complete list and has provided the locations. As we speak, contractors are already at the site and in the 10 locations for that project. So the governor of Borno State has fully keyed into the Mr. President's idea of achieving food security, irrespective of the challenges that the state is encountering. The governor is making it easier.
The federal government says the establishment of modular and private refineries across the country is a clear indication that the nation's oil and gas industry is gradually attaining full level of self-sufficiency. The Chief Executive Officer of the Department of Petroleum Resources, Zakia Walu, made this known during the Safety Compliance Assessment Tour to the Niger Delta Modular Refinery at Owele in Awada East Local Government Area, Rivers State. While expressing satisfaction with the facility, the DPR boss says he's hopeful that with the spring up of more refineries in the country, importation of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, will soon be a thing of the past. Now, the bearish performance at the local bourse is extended to a third consecutive week as the upward movement of yields in the fixed income market continues to dampen investors' sentiments. As a result, the NSE All-Share Index fell by 0.63% to close the week at 40,186.70 points, while the equity cap went down by 0.61%, with the year-to-date in negative territory at minus 0.2%. Volume and value of transactions dropped by 42.6% and 22.9% each when compared with last week's activity, as 1.54 billion shares changed hands for 18.23 billion naira in 22,752 deals this week. The sectoral performance was also mostly negative, as 3 out of the 5 major counters ended in the red. Portland Paints emerged best out of 39 gainers, up by 14.44%. Consolidated Whole Market is worst among 33 losers, down by 28.26%, while the trio of FBN Holdings, GT Bank and Zenith Bank were the most traded equities within the week. And that's it on Business News tonight. I'm Teniola Shuboale. It's back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Taniola. Now it's time for sports news. Here's Kayode Alayande.
Welcome now to sports news. Nigeria's Super Falcons have recorded their second win at the Turkey Women's Invitational Tournament in Alanya. Coach Randy Waldrum's girls squared off against Uzbekistan, who gave a good account of themselves, especially in the first half, which did not produce a goal for either side. However, the Super Falcons won the game 1-0 after a much improved performance in the second half, with Halimat Ainde getting on the score sheet in the 47th minute. Nigeria's next game will be against Equatorial Guinea on Tuesday. And in the English Premier League, Chelsea and Southampton settled for a share of the spoils after both sides played 1-1 draw, with Takumi Minamino scoring for the Saints, while Mason Mount levelled for the Blues from the penalty spot. Elsewhere, 10-man West Brom kept their first clean sheet under new manager Sam Allardyce, but a goalless draw with Burnley at Turf Moor did little to help their relegation fight. That'll be all on sports news. Back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Kayode. On the foreign scene, at least 2 people have been killed in anti-coup protests in Myanmar, the worst violence yet since demonstrations began earlier this month. According to reports, police used live ammunition to disperse demonstrators in the second largest city, Mandalay. At least 20 people have also been injured.
What started as a day of peaceful demonstrations across Myanmar ended in what is believed to be the single bloodiest day of protest against the military coup almost 3 weeks ago. The ongoing demonstrations have hit several cities, but in Mandalay, the situation escalated when security forces were confronted by shipyard workers who had gone on strike and other protesters. Police responded with tear gas and gunfire. Witnesses say they found both rubber bullets and live ammunition on the ground. 2 deaths have been reported and at least 22 people injured. Elsewhere, a memorial ceremony was held for the 20-year-old protester who had been shot in the head at an earlier demonstration. She had been on life support for 10 days before she died on Friday, becoming the first death among opponents of the coup. The military says one police officer has also died and blames protesters for instigating violence. Despite calls for calm, the protesters, who have ranged from civil servants, monks, ethnic minorities to rappers, show no sign of relenting. They are demanding that civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi be released, along with other members of her National League for Democracy party. The military claims the NLD's landslide election win last year was fraudulent, but have not provided proof. It has promised to hold new elections, but no date has been announced, and a one-year state of emergency has been declared.
And the main news again, residents of Dikwa and Mate in Borno State today fled their homes following an attack by suspected insurgents on their communities. Meanwhile, the Chief of Army Staff has applauded the soldiers who repelled the invasion as he visited the theatre command. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Olumide Macaulay.